Everything about you is sexy.
See, if Sinister was here, he'd be offended that you're flirting with someone else.
Oh, that is words I would not hear normally come out of Crimson's mouth, but the fact that he's quoting from the film 5 Feet Apart, it makes sense. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Cheap Seat Critics, where today, as I stated, we are reviewing 5 Feet Apart. And with us today, we have...
Yeah, as always, I am a geeky writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks.
And welcome.
Yeah. It's all every time I feel like when we do one of these episodes, it's always, a different thing. It's always different. I guess I could say it again. This is different than I think a lot of things we've chosen so far.
Yeah, it's been, this is definitely an odd one. I remember when we started, I immediately got the sense I was like watching like a John Green novel, because John Green's infamous for dying people falling in love in his books.
Cornered the market in there.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, for one of the reviews that I read for this movie is like, if you love John Green, you're gonna love this, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Definitely playing for a particular audience in this one, for sure.
I'm not necessarily familiar with John Green, so
time to get familiar.
Yeah. Have you?
I guess.
Well, I guess the famous one would be Fault in Our Stars. I'm assuming you.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
I know what school you went to, so I would assume you would at least know that novel.
Yep, I know that one.
I read the reviews for this, and a lot of people were criticizing it because of that movie.
Oh.
Saying it was just a copy. But I haven't seen A Fault in Your Stars, so I don't know.
Oh. Okay. I guess let's start with, as we normally do, with our little history of the movie. Crimson, why don't you kick us off here?
All right. Get your popcorn, because this is going to be long-winded. I have only heard of this, and that's it. No. I saw the trailers when this was coming out, so I kind of knew the gist of what was going to happen in this. Turns out it's about terminally ill kids. And yeah, I could tell it's not my type of movie. I usually don't go for romance stuff and teen dramas, so it was kind of both in this. So you'll get my feelings for it overall, because that's a general sense. Usually I don't go for either of those. So that's my history. Very short.
All right, let's pop it on over to Ryder.
My history with this is the genre, not necessarily. I've never heard of this movie. The only thing I knew about this movie before going in was the infamous line of "Everything about you is sexy," because that line was, I think I remember hearing it in advertisements, and that is my history with this movie. Is that line? I knew nothing about it except for that line. And I had forgotten that line was in the movie until I heard it.
Well, I guess I'll go with my little history with the movie. I saw when this movie came out. I saw it in theaters, and I was warned at the time. I went with someone who knew people at the theater and warned us that it's a sad movie. And I was like, oh, I'll be fine, sad movie, whatever. And I was, first time watching it in theater, I was holding back my sobs and I was harming myself probably by just holding back tears. And I was an absolute train wreck coming out of that film. And then during COVID quarantine lockdown, one day I'm like, yeah, I'll rewatch this movie. I haven't seen it since I saw it in theater. Same thing happened again, complete wreck and meltdown. And then I'm like, okay, this would be a nice, interesting little choice to choose for the podcast. I'll watch it again. Why not? Yeah, I've seen it before. Same verdict. Became a little bit of train wreck. Same things happened all 3 times with me watching this.
Did it get lessened or about the same?
The first time was definitely the heavy hitter in the theater, but my second and third time watching this has been pretty equal. And what one could argue, it's very sad movie. Yes, and some people out there, it's like, oh, it's because dreamy Cole Sprouse.
I do love my
Who
Jughead.
says that?
Yeah, for that
I
I have
guess
a little bit of history with. I know a little bit about Cole Sprouse. Growing up
Yeah, Sweet
watching,
Life of Zack and Cody.
yeah, Sweet Life and Sweet Life on Deck, and the Sweet Life on Deck movie, and then watching Riverdale
Yeah,
up to a certain point.
it was a great show to watch with friends and get drunk to.
That is certainly one way to say it. Yeah.
It was fun. I would never say it's good. I don't recommend it,
No,
but
no, it
definitely a
was
lot of fun to watch with
time.
friends.
Yes, and possibly you might review that later. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's
Big
pretty much
Daddy. Or was that
They
some other
were.
twins?
I believe that was both the Sprouse
It's been
twins.
so
from
long
Big
since
Daddy.
I've seen it.
Yes.
Mhm.
So with our history out of the way, and since I'm taking reins on this one, let's go with a little bit of facts that I have of the film. So what we have here is the initial release date was March 7th, 2019, and I believe it was March 15th for US. Again, as normally, these facts I found scattered across the internet, taken with a grain of salt. Who knows how 100% true they are? Just for
I
the
thought you were
record.
part of production. So, okay.
Well, I just want to say, because some people could, come at me about it. So
Hey, Spriggs, that's not in the podcast script. You're not supposed to say that.
we're not supposed to talk. Ah, shoot, shit. Turn it off. Okay, so box office was nine. Well, actually, I'll start with budget. This movie was 7 million USD for its budget, and from
Wow.
box office, it got 92.6 million.
That's a pretty small budget.
Well, it didn't really have a lot of shooting locations.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess Cole Sprouse was pretty cheap.
maybe. I guess so. Well, 6 million went to Cole Sprouse. The movie was a 1 million.
Yes.
Runtime is an hour 57 minutes. It's directed by Justin Baldoni. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly. The genre, funny enough, is only listed as drama. No teen, no romance is categorized in it. So just genre of drama.
I was reading the Netflix how they described it, and it was like it was drama, tearjerker, because they consider that a genre, and there was and they did put romance, I think, in the Netflix in their description as one of their genres.
Oh,
so
well, I think that's those are the tagged flags for looking things up, but also count as like quote unquote their genre listings. And the rating for the film is PG-13. I realize if you've listened to our earlier works of the podcast, I don't think I've ever stated the rating, but I think it might be a little bit of
Town's
important.
rated R, but I'll say that.
Oh, false information here. False information. All right.
Can you imagine if Halloween Town was a hard R? That would be so weird.
That'd be a completely different movie.
Yeah, but.
And then I have 5 fun facts. So I think I should start with the more serious one to begin with. Claire Wineland, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, who the film is inspired greatly by, worked closely with the leads to perfect the roles of cystic fibrosis patients. Claire died of a stroke in September 2018, right after the successful lung transplant. Second fact is the film.
Get the age of her?
I did not. I think she was 19.
Okay.
No, she may have been a little older. I did not get the age. I'm sorry.
The consultant they had, you mean, for this?
Yeah, she was a young adult.
Okay.
The film partnered with Claire's Place Foundation, a charity providing emotional and financial support to families struggling with cystic fibrosis. The actors and directors worked closely to accurately depict cystic fibrosis in the film. Next fact, the balloons Stella uses for Will's birthday are purple, and purple is the official color of CF patients. And now a little more of the, traditional quote-unquote fun facts. Cole Sprouse filmed this movie during his break between season 2 and 3 of the CW show Riverdale.
Yay.
And the craziest fact I could
Explains
find.
his hair.
Yeah.
I guess so. The craziest fact I could find. Director Justin Baldoni guest starred in The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody season 3, episode 7, titled "Foiled Again" as Diego, the fencing instructor.
That's
remember that
funny. That's funny.
And those are the facts I have.
Oh, I mean, great.
Right? Did you watch Zack and Cody?
No,
Oh,
dude,
that's a good one.
I don't. The only shows I watched that was a Nickelodeon show, right?
That was
Disney.
Disney Channel.
That was Disney Channel. Okay, that's even worse. No, I watched nothing that was on Disney Channel. I'm like, so let me get you right on. I was a Cartoon Network kid. So most of the shows I watched growing up were on Cartoon Network. I was a late bloomer into Nickelodeon, so I watched a few shows. I remember watching Danny Phantom and Last Airbender and iCarly. I think I saw anything on Disney Channel.
Drake and Josh.
Nope.
No, that was probably if he's Miss SpongeBob, like the good age of SpongeBob, he's definitely Miss Drake and Josh.
Yeah, SpongeBob was Nick, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. No, I wasn't allowed to watch SpongeBob growing up, and by the time I grew up and I was old enough to watch it, deemed old enough to watch it, I didn't care enough to.
Sad.
Yeah.
Just like this movie.
Yeah, just like it's
Way to bring it back.
Yeah. So the structure today we'll be going with is the popcorn method, which we've only used so far once in the past. If you listen to our episode of Men way back in season 1. So how we'll go is you can just randomly choose anywhere in the movie, and I know this is a little bit difficult for Ryder and Crimson because they like to stay linear, but you're allowed to choose any scene in the movie that just kind of struck home to you, either as like negatively or positively, or just no matter how big the detail is in any regard, but just something that stood out to you. And we'll start with Ryder.
Oh, sweet. I'm actually going to start from the beginning. Shocker, I know, everyone.
Wow.
I do want to talk about the opening scene because the opening scene is always that's what you need to do to hook your audience, and I thought this was a very effective hook. They go through the whole importance of human touch, in what to people, and it's human touch to us is what like animal grooming is to one another. So cats grooming their kittens, things like that sort of thing. It's a similar psychological phenomenon. So now that we are in a post-COVID world, it also is exemplified by some level of personal experience that we all have now with the idea of having to maintain social distancing and stuff like that. So I thought the hook for this was very, very effective. As well as the first scene, because the first scene is shot in a way that you don't know she's in a hospital room. In that, like, when her friends are there, they're all joking around and they're bouncing around because she's not wearing her cystic fibrosis. I don't know what it's called.
Vest or
yeah, she's not in a vest. She's in her tube. Yeah, she's not wearing any of it. She looks normal, and it was a very stark introduction to her character to the juxtapose what her life is actually like. Because we happen to catch her on a good day. Her friends are there for a visit before they go on vacation, and we get to see them. We get to see them bond. So I thought the opening few minutes of this film was very, very on point, and I was hooked from there to the end. Like, in that sense of, I was ready to commit my time to this movie from that point.
I wrote in my notes that I wrote it as a very melancholy opening. Because the way Stella narrates, she leaves such a dramatic pause at the end of every sentence. To really give a stronger start to the next sentence she's saying. Yeah.
And then also the effect of the end as well, when we cut to the end of the footage and it's Jughead. I'm going to call him Jughead.
That's fine.
That's what he's listed at as my notes. I know his name is Will, but he's Jughead. So yeah, we're definitely left with that melancholy feeling after the opening, but we know what we're in for pretty much as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Crimson, do you have anything to say on the matter?
Yeah, I liked the transition when the friends left to her turning to put on her medical stuff. I like that.
Yeah.
That one also got me, I guess, invested to a degree. Curious to see where it goes.
Mhm.
I did like the additional, I guess it was like 2 or 3 seconds of her just standing at the door. Just like kind of thinking it over, like trying to keep that feeling of like having fun with friends, I guess.
Yeah.
Or a little fearful of like, now I have to go back to normal life. So just the additional silence and her just standing there.
They give the actress and the character time to breathe.
Yes.
Which is very important for this movie because it's not an action-packed, fast-moving movie. It's very slow. It's a slow burner movie, so they take the time with a lot of things, and that's very important. I think they did that.
Yes. Well, after that wonderful opening, Crimson, go ahead, pick something.
Well, kind of piggybacks immediately after the scene. Her stream, I looked to see everything on it, and it's the most unrealistic thing I've ever seen in a movie before. There were 0 dislikes on her video. That's insane. And this was before the dislike button got removed.
Yeah, you know what makes it unrealistic? The fact that she's not in nighttime mode.
Wow.
Yeah. 740 likes to 0 dislikes.
I guess that is a good thing to point out.
And she started streaming 3 months ago, so fairly recent in her timeline of being sick.
She started. Okay, actually, this actually prompts a question. So if she started streaming only 3 months ago, that means Abby would have died very early into the streaming stuff.
Presumably.
Well,
unless
true.
they screwed up continuity.
That's why I throw this to the floor, because when did Abby die in the story? Because I didn't catch anything, but I've only seen this film 1.5 times, so
I don't have it written in my notes. I don't think they ever said an actual date of when Abby died.
So she was there for the last surgery. I don't did they say when her last surgery was at all? Like a year ago or anything? Or was it 5 years because new lungs? Was it the lungs?
It was waiting on the lungs of the 5 years, I believe, of span. I think that they said her last surgery was a month ago.
Oh.
Okay. So that means she's
okay. So that'd be very recent.
Yeah. So she's not like Jughead's character, where he's just checking in. She's been here for a while, so like this isn't a new thing. All right, then that moves some things around a little bit on the timeline.
Let's see. They said how long Jughead was here. Wasn't it 8 months or something? Look at the minutes. Shoot. I don't see it, but I think he was here for 8 months. Because he said that to Poe, I think, when they first interacted.
Skateboarding part?
Yeah. I think. They definitely brought up how long Will was here, but I can't seem to find that on there.
Yeah, I missed that if they did. Because then it would have to be like. So sorry, go on.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. They listed he was off the transplant list after 8 months. So.
Okay, so that's not really
the closest we got to when he got the problem.
Yeah, that doesn't really.
He got checked in.
Yeah. I thought he got checked in new.
Yeah.
Will.
Yeah.
Was a very.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat as you, Springs. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, Poe and Stella have known each other since, I think Poe said since she was 7.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily at that same hospital since they were 7, but Will's really newly added to their wing on their floor.
That's the thing. If he'd been there for 8 months, there's no way they would not all be acquainted.
Yeah. I think he's been diagnosed for 8 months.
Weird that he reserved his room for his friends to hook up.
Well, I think
If that was literally what happened.
That's still him in the mindset of not caring. I think him getting to this hospital on the floor to be there with Stella and Poe is the new drug trial that he's going on.
Yeah.
Which I don't think they ever listed what the drug was, or maybe they did at the very end with his mom.
Dr. Hamid said what it was, but I didn't write it down.
Okay. I do know this movie had a lot of accurate scientific explanations.
Research. They did research.
Yeah, I think that was very, very good.
Mm-hmm. I think the only thing I don't know. I think the only thing they didn't do well was the social distancing aspect. And the masks.
Nuts.
And the
that
masks
drove me nuts.
Yeah, that one drove me nuts too. I think that's the only things that they didn't do a very good job on. I think all the medical stuff was really good. They weren't very consistent with the masks, and they weren't very consistent with the distance, even when they were following the rules. So, yeah.
And every time Will took his mask off, I'm like, okay, it's Will. But every time Stella did, I'm like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be the super anal retentive safe one.
We'll definitely get there. There was definitely a point where Stella's character flipped, and they threw me out of the fucking movie almost, because it was that drastic. And there was a point, I also think, where the flip would have made sense, but that part doesn't come until even later. So yeah, there's a hint to some of our problems with the movie, I suppose.
Yes. Sprinks, you got something on popcorn?
Well, you guys like keeping it linear. I am a little sucker. I got a little guilty pleasure of the handheld in films, I guess.
So she really liked the streaming.
I really liked the overall camera work in this movie. I like that there was shaky cam of there was handheld of the live streaming. There was shaky cam of scenes more earlier on than later, and then there was steady set still frames. So I did like the use of multiple different types of camera work throughout the film, rather than set to one.
Mm-hmm. You like the variety.
I do.
Yeah.
I think it added more to parts that were serious, added more parts that were a little easy and a little more lighthearted, and the handheld, like for live streaming, was a little more realism to it than a set camera on like a tripod.
Yeah.
In relation to the stream, this is probably one of the few things where it didn't bug me. Usually when they bring in social media and streaming stuff in movies, I hate it. It's annoying.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually worked here for me. That was kind of nice that didn't bug me.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It didn't bug me here either. Because, I mean, what else are you going to do when you're stuck in a hospital room? So I was kind of... It was twofold. One, to inform us of the audience, and also it's something about her character as well. And it also, it just didn't get on my nerves like it normally does. So I was kind of happy with that.
It was no Miss Marvel.
Good God, don't remind me.
I guess I'll jump next to a little part I liked, where pretty much right after the meet cute of Will and Stella, I liked that their names were given via Barb.
Yep, me too. I like that. Because they were not necessarily hostile to each other, they were just in different corners, so to speak. So it was nice that Barbara gave up both their names. Barb.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about how they treated Barb in this? They kind of made her off as kind of an antagonist to them at some point. And I was kind of getting a little annoyed by that.
I was valid with Barb up until one scene. There's one scene that I didn't like, but I think Barb definitely had her reasons of being who she was, especially when she told Will about the past of two prior patients that she did go easy on, and they both died because of it.
There,
And that under her watch, she doesn't want that to occur again, so she's a little more hard stickler. The one scene though that stands out to me is after, and definitely jumping here, the death of Poe. She doesn't go to check on Will or Stella.
Well, she's kind of occupied.
yeah, but well, remember we pretty much hard cut to them going on their walk, and she's still sitting at her desk. So it is a problem that she doesn't go to check on him, and they know Poe is their friend.
Yeah,
because I mean, especially if you're,
Stella
especially
crying outside the door
and Will looking distraught, and we also know. Well, we know Barb is established to care about them, so it is odd that she doesn't immediately jump to help them. As for
yeah, I don't think it needs to be immediate, but I do think that her just sitting at the, I guess, reception at desk or whatever, just kind of sitting there and then getting up. I think it should have been more initiative of her to go check on them.
yeah, I can agree with that. As for
I kind of can, because they need to grieve as well, and something an adult doesn't want to do when comforting a child is to be weak right out the gate and flubber words because you're emotional, right? So, because at least the pregnant, I don't remember Barb's facial, what her face looked like, but the pregnant lady, she was crying over Poe. So I think they were just gathering themselves, working on themselves first before they.
Yeah, well, check on them. Mind you, in this point, the point that she goes to check on them, they've already left the hospital. So they were sitting at. We cut to them on their desk. So she would have seen them both leave, more or less.
I don't know if that's necessary.
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's necessary, but there is a time issue here. There is a timing issue in the capacity of where once he's dead, other people are going to come and get him out of the room, and she's going to be taken down to the morgue and stuff like that. But there is a bit of a cut that this is kind of why I'm more on your side, Springs, is there is clearly a longer time gap than there should be between Barb going to check on the other two.
I'm trying to think what would have been the minimal amount of time, because Will and Stella go to the rooms, and then Will starts bagging his stuff to go down to the lobby where he sits there until Stella sees him through the window. So then Stella goes for a walk, and throughout this whole time, where then Will, goes out the front door and goes on a walk with Stella, Barb is probably with the body of Poe to go, as you said, to the morgue and all that. So I'm trying to think what the minimum amount of time would have been, because I think it's totally fine that Barb didn't see either Will or Stella.
I don't take a problem. I don't take a problem with the fact that she didn't see them leave. I take more of a problem with the fact, again, she didn't take the initiative to go comfort them on a sooner timetable.
Yeah. Like, she didn't come saying that she did go to the morgue. When she came back up to the floor, she didn't go knock on a door to check on Stella or Will. She just kind of went to the desk and continued her work.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to see it again, because I only watched this once, and I didn't get any, I guess, incorrect vibes towards this scene.
Okay, I'm trying to think.
It's not. I don't know if it'd be incorrect. It's just I thought the timing was off. And if the timing was off, that's a different flaw than from Barb taking initiative to go talk to them and try to comfort them as well. So,
yeah. I think it would have been about, I don't know, half hour.
Maybe. Let's see. Do I got anything?
Well, you obviously do, writer. What do you want to go to?
What did you guys think of the music throughout the film?
Music of its time.
Okay.
I don't know. It felt like a modern piece. Kind of like you can always tell what a '90s movie is just from the music choices. Kind of similar vibe here for me. Mood wise, I guess it all worked. None of them really stood out. Like, why are they playing the song? But it was fine. I think it was anything really special. Anything.
Springs?
I thought the music was fitting throughout. It agreed with Crimson here. Nothing was really like, why was this even put in, or like, this does not fit at all kind of thing. I think it all worked. It was about the third song where I went, they're kind of using a pattern and doing it again, like the same feel of song just put over. And I think it became stronger to me. At the beginning, it kind of was in a pattern of a scene that was like a bit of dialogue that trailed off, and then the music to help transition, I guess, into the next scene, which I think they did 3 or 4 times. But then towards the second half of the film, it was more the sort of the song was used and it was all quiet. I think that was during the part where one that comes to mind is when Stella tries to get Will, and Will's kind of come to the realization, like, we can't do this, because of, like, I don't want to kill you kind of thing. And Stella's like walking around, and Poe's trying to like wave to her, and she turns around and walks, and like all that music part I think fit were very well. The part I think it helps with a little more of hope. Has feelings of hope have more music to them, and a little more Foley in the background of trays going, or doctors and nurses walking around. But like a part that was extremely serious was the whole pool bit, where there was absolutely no music, no Foley. It was just Will and Stella talking. So I think the uses of music was far stronger in the second half of the movie than the first.
If I remember correctly, because I think I wrote notes down for this, my opinion of the music was very mixed. I think I liked the first half hour, and I thought the center of the movie was where the music was starting to become a little bit overbearing. When we're transitioning through like time, and like we're like with Stella having had a fight with Will, and had a fight with Poe. So like they're having their time apart. Like that music to me was fine. And then I think I liked the ending songs as well, because I felt like they were mostly tone appropriate, but I thought they oversaturated the centerpiece of the film. Where like I said, the pool with no music, that was very, very strong scene that didn't need anything. But there was also times where I think that they overplayed their hand with it, which is unfortunately, I think it's very common these days for modern films to do that. But so I think the movie music was a mixed bag for me as a result.
Okay, I think overall I pretty much agree with you on that. Combining what I said with, I guess, first half and second half, together, it was mixed bag. Crimson, popcorn us to the next bit.
Sure. How did Will get the clothing to go into her surgery room? The doctor garb.
No, the same way that Stella got the garb to go into his room and organize his cart.
Yeah,
like lying around.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty easy, especially being that these 3 kids can roam the whole hospital, so they pretty much know where everything is. I will agree, Will probably knows a little less, being that he's the most new and recent, but I still think it's pretty easy to just find, or the scrubs around to just find and put on.
I'm trying to think, because
I mean, I feel like it'd be easy to find gloves, but not all of that.
I think they have gloves just in the room.
I think scrubs are usually in the storage closets with where they store the extra gloves. I'm trying to remember where they normally are, because I've also my dad's a nurse, so I've spent my fair share of time in the hospitals too, just for fun. I think Stella would know. I think there would have to be something more for me to know that Will knows, unless he went to this hospital before.
Only thing I can think of that to give characterization
Characterization.
Thank you. Too well of why he knows where these are is because of how much he's shown planning to get things for Stella, like to put the lunds above the surgery table for her and to know where her room is. And he seems to be a good planner with time at hand. So I think he knows where he needs to go to get it.
Mm.
To me, it wasn't necessarily a random thing of like, oh, why are you in this?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, it makes sense that he would do it.
I don't think he could.
Yeah.
My stance on it.
Yeah, like I said, it makes sense that he would if he could, but I'm not sure if, like, he had easy, quick knowledge to do that. Hospitals are rather uniform. Tilting my head side to side. I could see an avenue for it. I can see both sides of it, so I'm probably in the middle on this one.
Okay.
Way to play it safe. But while we're on the scene, I liked Will here.
Showing it
pretty
back?
good. Yeah. The song and being there for Stella and
I have no idea how he got his
replacing
painting
her
on the
sister.
roof, but okay. The artwork on the ceiling.
Well, he used his mucus to stick it onto the ceiling.
No, what he did is he got on his phone and called in some Southside Serpents to help him out.
Nice, good reference. Yeah, I agree. It is a nice pedigree for Will's character. As I said, I guess the only minor misstep would be, like there is some missing parts here, but the scene still works.
Do you guys think they harped on this Abby too much in this? I was starting to feel that way, specifically during the birthday party.
Yeah,
Where
the birthday party is when I also thought they were. It was becoming a little too much. I think I'll say the birthday party was fairly natural dialogue, like, because Poe is very familiar with Abby at this point too, so like he would know what she's like. So they're sharing a memory as you would share stories. That's kind of what you do at a group of friends. You talk. So I thought it was natural, but I did think it was because of everything that happened in precedingly to it. I did think it was starting to become a little bit overbearing as a subject.
because they brought it up, which I agree, it's natural, and then the whole table goes silent. Well, half that table doesn't even know who Abby is, presumably with Will's friends. Probably didn't know who Abby was. So it was just a weird scene where everyone goes silent, and then they cheers to Abby or whatever. It's on Will's birthday dinner, and she comes up very often in this story, where us as an audience haven't really connected to Abby much, except through a couple snippets of scenes.
They're hoping our affection for this character is vicarious.
Yeah,
I think it works.
I think it was a bit much.
I think it works well on two accounts. Of one being, it seems Abby's death is fairly recent, so the discussion of Abby is
that works
still
more
on normal.
That does work better if it's like within the last month, as we kind of were talking about the potential timeline issues. I do think that will alleviate some of this problem.
With the friends, especially for this dinner scene that Stella's friends talk about, because it's still common conversation to talk about Abby, and it's still fairly new, and it's not something they're kind of rewired to be a little more gentle with, especially being very fun and drinking and having fun and whatnot. And the other thing is the reason to go quiet is because it's a very fresh wound. And at the part of Will's dinner birthday party, Will knows of Abby and the pain that Stella's going through right now. So him keeping quiet, I think, indicates to his friends to keep quiet. I'm sure they could have done one thing where one friend like leans over to Will, like, who's Abby or something. But I think just the tone shift of a birthday party where the birthday boy himself goes quiet and everything is a good indication to the friends that something sorrowful has come up.
Well, also we have to remember that they were talking about her in the past tense too.
I mean, they also researched her, like where is Abby? found out she was probably dead prior.
Yeah, because there's also the scene earlier where Jughead is with his friends and he's talking about the computer. It's all the Abby stuff stops here, so they know
you're
that.
right. You're right. Okay, so yeah, his friends know. Okay, to me then that strengthens why his friends went quiet.
My biggest thing is I just feel like Abby was too big of a presence in this for not even really being a character for the audience.
I think
she was used more as a device than a character,
which is fine.
I can agree. Yeah,
but
I think it was a little more stronger for Abby to be brought up in that account. That I think something they did well of not doing was having it more on the mom, on Stella's mom, of having one child already gone and then Stella being sick, which they did, I think, very well in the one scene where Stella and her mom are having lunch and spill the milkshake on Stella.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a very emotional, good connection there, but it wasn't a lot on the mom of being like, I've already lost a daughter, or talk about that, like the mom going into that whole Abby thing. I'm glad that wasn't used.
I don't think it needed to be, and I'm happy it wasn't used as well, because, I mean, like, the parents are in this as much as they are in their lives in reality. We see who they are with most of the time, because that's, which being, each other and the medical stuff, because their parents wouldn't be around all that often if they're staying at the hospital every day. So I don't think the parents needed to be explored more. I think in the case of Abby, because I agree with Crimson, she's used definitely more as a device than she is a character. There's definitely avenues I think they could have taken to expand the importance of her presence without necessarily compromising the absence that we're intended to feel. So I don't think it, like I said, it felt like they were leaning towards, they were using the device too much, like in the same way that a story uses a MacGuffin too much. But I do understand the sentiment of they want to accomplish with Abby as a background character. Clearly, obviously, she's meant to have had an effect on her sister, and she's also like on Stella, and she's also clearly meant to have an effect on Poe with the way Poe has talked about her and her friends. So there is, because of that effect that she has on everyone retroactively, I do think it would have been more prudent for the film to have treated her more as a character and less as a device, just because of that presence she is meant to have. And like I said, there's avenues in which they could do that. I'm kind of leaning towards Crimson on this one, just purely because of the use of device over character. But it's a very thin line to walk, for the most part. I will say that.
Okay. I mean, I am in agreement that it is Abby's used more of the device than a character, but I think it works because there's no quote unquote like actual memory or flashback that Stella has, or even a dream sequence of Abby, and it's just used of prior footage of recordings of Abby, like doing the skydiving and whatnot. So I think the use of the recordings works for the device of said Abby, because not everyone knows of, I mean, well, Will especially doesn't know Abby, just has seen of her. So I think that working of a conversation between Will and Stella of Stella's actual sister that she knew and everything, and far recent death, to Will is better.
Crimson, do you got any final thoughts?
I mean, you agree with me, I agree with you. It wasn't to a degree where it was distracting or anything. It's just something I kind of had a little bit of an issue with. Mm-hmm. Everything else is pretty much covered.
All right, all popcorn. Do you guys think it was good to use the foreshadowing of Poe's mistake at breakfast, where he accidentally hits the buzzer?
I mean, it was pretty obvious that it would become relevant doing that.
It was obvious its relevance. I think the execution was fine. I wasn't exactly impressed by it because I saw it coming, but I also wasn't. I wasn't disappointed by it. It felt like it was a setup, so I don't really have much more of an opinion on that. The execution was fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
if they wanted to be sneaky about it, I don't think there's a way they could have. They pretty much did it the only way.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about setting up something is you're more I was gonna say intellectual. That's not the right word. You're more observant audience members. You're going to pick it up. So there's always a balance you have to run when you're setting something up. So if you are setting something up, at least I recognize you're putting the work in. I thought it was fine. Sprinks, did you have a deeper opinion on that?
Well, I think it was fine because it wasn't a boy who cried wolf situation. It only occurred once, so I think it was fine, and that it only stuck to one character. It was just on Poe. It wasn't Will didn't do something that was accidental to go foreshadowing or Stella or anything. So I think it was just on Poe, and I think it fit fine as a scene.
I think if
I would say it's a little cheesy because
yeah,
the whole foreshadowing to come up thing, but I think it would still fit fine.
if I were to nitpick something specifically about the scene, I would probably nitpick the nurse.
Oh, he probably just
well.
fell on it on accident.
Again, yeah. My thing is to nitpick the nurse because Poe has clearly been here a while, and she freaks out in an earlier scene when something's kind of going wrong in their eyes.
Oh, hold on. Are we talking about the actual Poe dying?
Well,
Both.
We're talking.
I'm comparing.
Okay.
I'm comparing. I'm nitpicking the nurse because there's a clear difference in her character from one scene to the next. Poe has clearly been here a while at the start of the story, so the nurse freaking out is and in the first scene is fine. That's expected, but because Poe has been here a while and this is her job, I would have expected her to be more. She would have picked up more professional and would have picked up the pace a little bit more later in the film. If I were to nitpick something about it, that's kind of where I would go with it. I don't have too much of an issue with it because, like I said, it's just they're paying off a setup, but it is still a minor flaw I would take with it.
Yeah, I agree. Since as far as we saw or heard, he only screwed up once. This isn't a boy who called wolf, like you said. So I feel like she should still treat it as a normal emergency, and which she didn't, obviously.
Yeah, she took a nonchalant stroll.
Yeah. So that is kind of not great for a pregnant nurse. Did she ever have a name?
I think
I just wrote down pregnant lady.
I think it was only said once when she came into the room to see Stella, like grabbing her belly.
Okay.
Yeah, at the very beginning is we get introduced to Barb and her, and that was.
But I did not write.
Yeah, I didn't write her name down either.
Sprinks, since you expressed that you've had a lot of emotion in this film, do you get more emotional for Poe's death or just for the ending? Or what's the emotional stuff? Okay.
Far more for the ending.
See, that was the inverse. I felt more for Poe's death than the ending in this.
I mean, Poe's death is still sad. I'm not saying that I didn't feel anything towards Poe's death, but I think I have a stronger thing for the ending.
What part of the ending? Is it Will leaving, or is it the whole bridge stuff, or the ice?
It's the start of the ice to the point of Stella looking through the drawings.
See, I got emotional with Stella looking through the drawings and everything, but I will admit my investment emotionally was cut down dramatically by how stupid they acted.
Yeah, I hated the whole ice bridge stuff. It felt so contrived.
Well, definitely her falling off, that felt contrived. I'm fine with them having fun, and they did the smart thing as soon as crack started forming, and they fucking left. That was smart, but the moment she fell, I just rolled my eyes. I'm like, okay, my investment's broken now. Because, I mean, Yeah, my investment for the emotional finale, unfortunately, was cut short because I thought that they were. It was very, very contrived. Is the correct word for that?
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
that pretty much ruined it for me. I didn't really feel much after that, unfortunately.
I do, like I said, I get emotional with the drawings, especially when we see Poe's drawing. We could see that he didn't draw just cartoons of her; he did actual like profiles of her and stuff like that. Uh, Portraits. That's the word I'm looking for. So I did get emotional with that. I don't think the ending landed as strongly though for me because of the preceding events that led up to it, which is a fucking shame because I thought the film had been doing well up until that point.
I
Okay.
agree.
My notes, I do like the tone shift to Stella in the water and how heavy it hits from Will walking down, and immediate change to handheld camera from standalone, still. So that was already a kind of a giveaway to me. But the thing that takes it down a peg for me in that scene is the fact that the ice made no noise.
Oh yeah, that was
There's no gasp.
I
There's no crack.
I left a note. One of my notes says that is the quietest ice break I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, that is the thing that takes it down a peg for me. Is the fact of how silent it was. Especially, I think you can still Will's talking. You can hear his footsteps in the snow.
And then he just looks and sees nothing. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong, very cool shot where he just looks and sees nothing. And I like his expression, but still you missing
the
elements.
folly of it was gone.
Yeah.
No ice break or splash of her falling in the water.
Especially
Yep.
since earlier when they were on it and it started to crack, you could hear it cracking.
Yep.
So
It is established that in this world, ice does make sound.
that's true. That is true. I have a point then to go to. Will, this pretty earlier on where Will has shown very little care for his future of living and just trying to go about day to day until he dies. Do you think driving Stella to the point of madness, I guess, to help him with his regimen of actually doing things with Stella because he's been, flirtatious with her kind of up to a point and joking? Do you think that was actually thought out of him to do as an idea to spend more
No.
time with Stella?
Oh, well, I thought you were going to say to actually help himself.
No, not for himself.
Well, yeah, he obviously made that deal to get more time with her, obviously. If that's what you're saying.
Well, the deal was after when they're in the atrium. Is that it? No, that's after. I meant beforehand when she comes to check on his room, and it's just a mess with the Donkey Kong doodle on his regimen and whatnot.
Oh.
And part of it is what I mean. Do you think like that was intentional of him as a thought from earlier of like being on the roof together, and the atrium talk of developing a slight interest for Stella? Do you think driving her a little more batty was an intent of him to get to this deal?
I'm gonna go with no, specifically because he actually asks her what her problem is in the nursery, like genuinely. There's a he
Being a
takes
control freak.
yeah, and when she instead she was being a troll, she wanted him to say yeah, and I'm a weirdo, but didn't get that. But because of that scene because he doesn't know why she's like this, and so he genuinely asks her. That is why I don't think he did that intentionally.
Okay.
I
just
kind of
talking.
agree.
Yeah. I mean, he did it intentionally, obviously, but I don't think he realized how much of the effect it was having on her until he asked her.
All right. Okay. I am also in agreement. I think that was just him being him, and didn't do it in thought of in regard to Stella, and that was just who he was and how he went about it until the deal, and then allowed her. Okay. Ryder, do you have another topic to bring up?
Let's see. We kind of talked about the we could talk about the pool scene a little bit. I think I it's kind of become a trope that I've noticed. A lot of teens' stories end up in the pool. Um,
Life is strange.
yeah, Life is Strange. I literally wrote down Life is Strange in my notes. And I'm trying to think of another example because I know I've seen it more than a few times.
I don't watch teen stuff.
Yeah,
Oblivion.
I rarely do. Oh yeah, well, Oblivions are adults, but
Yeah, that's a lot different.
whenever teenagers are opening up to each other, there's always a scene that involves the pool. I can think of one in an anime right now. I don't know the name of it though, so it's still not really an evidence I can use. Um, but they, it's one of those things where it's kind of an expected trope for me. So it kind of ticked a box, like a check box for me when I was watching the film. And I thought as far as like, they always play the scenes like the being vulnerable to each other, pretty much. Like they're exposing themselves a little bit, which is kind of which is in the theme because they're both doing it literally in bathing suits and stuff like that. So there's the tension um, of hormones and all the good old teen stuff. Um, and I thought the scene was very powerful due to its silence. I think the one thing I did not like about the scene, and this is because modern writing has really ruined this for me a lot, is Will describes Stella's character traits to her.
Yeah.
I think as far as that trope goes, this is better because it's done in a more like encouraging way, but it is done in mostly encouraging lights all the time is the problem. So I just notice it more. Um, I think it works slightly better here than it does in other stuff because Stella is a bit more self-conscious in this scene. So it's a part of the theme of them opening up to one another, but it doesn't negate that the trope is gets on my nerves.
In regards to the pool scene, I did like the stick, the pool stick, where they kind of just like touching it as in holding hands or her caressing herself with it. I was like, okay, that's an interesting way of utilizing that. I wonder, could they be closer underwater, or would the mucus still be an issue under there, the bacteria?
In a chlorinated pool, I'm going to go
Yeah.
with not being much of an issue.
So they could kiss underwater?
I don't know if they can kiss, but they
If
could
their
definitely.
mouths were full of chlorinated water, maybe.
But if they were like hugging each other, that'd probably be fine.
See, that's something I would have liked to have seen, because I think that would have helped a bit more. It probably would have weakened the ending where they actually get to touch and stuff, but that would have been a good time to do it, in their minds, anyways, because that would technically be safe as far as we're aware. Yeah. Minor thing, I suppose. I don't have much more for this pool. We'll see.
How about you?
It was okay.
How about you, Springs? I did bring it up.
For the pool scene, I think I said it earlier with the music. I like that there was no music.
Yeah, I think it was a very, very important use of silence being the better choice. As for the music thing, I really like that Jughead just kind of just flops into the pool sideways. I thought that was funny.
I think the makeup of the scars looked very good.
Yeah.
Looked very real to me.
All right.
Okay, I got a popcorn then. So after Stella's surgery, the first one where Will was present in the beginning, afterwards we get Will looking up his disease, then drawing the Reaper and ignoring Stella's call. Do you think he was upset because he saw the mortality rate, or he was upset with her for making him care?
Oh, I think it was mortality.
He thinks about it on Mondays, as he said in the pool scene. Um, no, I definitely mortality. Um, I the thing is, I was annoyed by it because they told us already what his disease is. Um, so it was weird that he was looking up the facts of his disease when he would know it.
I
Um,
think I think because at this point, being on his regimen with Stella to do it together has him a little more hopeful of getting through it. So I think him looking through it was kind of
you think it was more of a
a s-
refresher?
yeah, a refresher, a setting stone, because it's because of the surgery that Stella's going through is hopefulness of Stella getting better.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I saw
I
more of him getting mad that he's beginning to care about his life a little bit, which I hope is the case because I think
interesting.
that's better than him getting the whole mortality thing because he's already heavily into that already.
I think it would be a heavy hitter if it was him knowing at this point how much Stella cares about him. Right, because him feeling about Stella, I don't think is necessarily that strong at this point in the movie. Um, of course, it's shown of how Will feels about her, like watching all her YouTube videos and going through all the
And,
FaceTimes and
and especially since
regimens
this is
together.
yeah, since this is they've clearly been doing the regiments together for a while. Maybe I don't know for some period of time. So they've clearly bonded a little bit more.
But it doesn't necessarily show the romantic connection that Stella has until after the surgery when she starts beautifying herself to go see Will. So I I think it would play stronger if it was more on the emotions of Stella than Will. So Crimson, as you're saying, Will's thought of he's starting to care for Stella, I think it would have been stronger if I mean I still agree that it was more on Stella's getting healthier than him. But if Stella's care was getting stronger and he was more of a protector of I don't want her to care about me so much if I'm just going to die.
That's where you see the mortality thing.
Yeah, rather than flipping it to be more of I'm caring so more about her and going to die because I think his thought is more on her than him, or should be more on her than him.
No,
I
that's
don't
not what
think
I
he
was
should.
saying.
Oh, I'm like I
No,
don't think he should
I
keep
was
himself
saying
in
that
his
he was
room because of
beginning to
himself.
care about his own life. Is why he's irritated at Stella because she's made him care about himself now. That's what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
Because
Yeah,
up to this
no,
point, he obviously didn't care about his life.
yeah.
Here, I saw him actually caring for his life, and I thought he was getting mad at her for making him care now.
Huh. Okay.
That's how I saw the scene, anyways.
I lean more towards the mortality thing, and she's getting healthier, so he doesn't want to interrupt that. Which is kind of overall of the movie to me a little characteristic yin yang flip of Will and Stella, of Stella being very much like healthy, stick to the plan, and Will not giving a fuck. And then towards the end, where they get the text message of like Stella has lungs, and Stella just wants to stay in the moment with Will and not worry about the hospital right now because of love, and Will's like very adamant, no, go get better.
Well, since you brought up the yin and yang thing, I should probably
The
start talking
flip.
about that. um, I think okay. So, but before I guess we move to that, I'm more on Crimson's side. Uh,
Of the caring versus mortality, that part, or
yes, I'm trying to bring back your argument again. In my head, the the thing that happens to before this scene is Barb's talk with Will about losing somebody or losing people under her watch.
oh, the two past CFers. Yeah.
Yes. And then
Trevor Vaughn
and
and
then we
Amy Presley.
and then we cut into Stella waking up and him going through the whole mortality issue. Um, it might be that Barb triggered the sense of mortality in him with her conversation. Um, but I'm in agreement with Crimson that his version would be stronger for the sake of the story. But I think, Springs, that yours is more likely what happened.
Okay. I see.
Yeah, that's pretty much my opinion on it.
Okay.
You're going to bring up the yin yang thing as well?
Yeah, may as well jump into it since it was brought up. So there's a character flip that happens in this film, and there is no arc to get here. It just happens.
Okay, so you don't think it's gradual?
No, it is definitely not gradual. The only thing that you have in that Will's sense of mortality, or in favor of that, would be the Barb discussion. But for a character that's been established to be against the rules for as much as he has been, it's not enough, I think. And the same goes for Stella, because I find hers much worse because.
That's what I was going to say. I think Stella's was worse.
Oh, I do think Stella's is worse. Jughead was made some sense because there is something there to be done. There is nothing for Stella. For Stella's flip. She goes from like following rules 100% of the time to throwing as many of them away as she can.
She was even willing just to essentially kill herself for Will, disregarding her parents, and her whole reason for living was pretty much so her parents didn't have to suffer through her dying like her sister.
Yeah.
Threw that all out the window for Will at the end.
Which is very, very drastic. But to kind of keep this discussion focused, I'm going to just focus on the start, which is, I think there is a point where I could believe Stella's rebellion, and I think that's Poe's death. Because my issue is between Poe's death and the coming out of her surgery, she's a completely different character without the journey to get there. So Poe's death being a catalyst for the change, that would have been I think, a stronger focal point for it. Because the fact that you can see it in the tears of her eyes, she's complaining that Toes has been her best friend and she's never once hugged him. Like, you can see how much that bothers her and that breaks her. So there is something there to inspire as a catalyst for her changing character from there until the end of the film. The problem is she was already changed before that, which is, she's not wearing her masks anymore. She
gave up a foot.
She gave up a foot. She does a lot that I find to be very out of character for her without the arc to be there. So that is probably one of my main issues with the film, particularly because I thought they were doing a great job with character work for the most part up until that point. It was very jarring.
Okay. I'd imagine, Sprinks, you disagree. Let's hear your rebuttal.
I don't necessarily disagree, but what I'm hearing is Will had some and Stella had zero. For what I see, I guess in a more visual aspect, I do see Will's is better as a, let's say, line graph, like going up.
Yeah.
But I see Stella's as a bar graph, where it steps. It's not smooth. And I don't think it was initial just a one flip change. I think it was maybe 3 changes throughout the film that just got to the point of the end. The one that actually went backwards to me was crying over Poe's death. Of course, she's extremely emotional at this point, but when Jughead touches her shoulder and she flips out about it.
I was fine with that.
Backwards.
That was fine for me. That was shock.
Yeah.
I'm
I think
more
it was fine, but yeah. in the idea of this quote unquote gradual she's going through from beginning to end, it to me was going back, but it's still because of the shock and Poe dying and right there in the moment that it fit. Now, from what we spoke earlier, from her walking down to go see Will downstairs in the span of maybe a half hour to completely shift to this now, let's just live in the moment, breathing bolero kind of thing, just have fun with life while we have it. I think throughout the film to get to that point because of Will being in her life worked, but it still was step by step. For Will, I think it was definitely more smooth, in agreement with what the two of you said, of how he didn't care to still be in his life, and then the mortality thing and kind of being more careful and making sure Stella's on the right path and whatever. One thing, I guess one scene, which is I guess technically the pool scene, which could kind of work, is that they go to the pool after Stella does her stream of like taking back 1 foot, and then they use the pool cue to go down to the pool, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That to me is the one scene where I guess it's another step out of Stella, but it could be seen as exercise in the regimen, like go for a walk. But that whole quote unquote date of them at the pool, I think, is taking over time of other things on the regimen that neither one seems to care about.
That was something I had problems
I guess at
with.
the point, Stella, I think, is a problem.
Yeah,
Stella didn't seem to get sure she was becoming more emotionally attached to Will and kind of caught in the moment, but I think she would have been more okay, let's get back to do our vests and whatnot than a text message from I think Poe saying like, oh, Barb knows you're gone.
Yeah, one of my problems for this was that they stopped showing the regimens. It kind of fell to the wayside in replacement of their relationship.
I would have been fine with them, I don't think the regimen should have been removed completely. I think it would have been fine, okay, we're catching them at the end of, they're taking their pills or whatever, or they're catching them at the end of their vests and they're going to meet up, that sort of thing. Because they do completely stop here, and because of that, it just kind of adds more to why I think Stella's character was a hard 180. Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
No,
you got anything more? Crimson, yeah.
In regards to her 180ness, I guess it'll depend on this answer. Might affect a little bit. She said she wanted to go and see the lights. Was she talking literal lights or end of the tunnel lights? The the stars dying.
I assumed she was talking about the city lights.
I thought she was talking about the city lights as well. I never thought of it end of the tunnel.
Yeah, part of me was like, is she going to die? Is that what her goal is here?
That's what
What do you guys think on that?
I'm fascinated to hear this coming out of Crimson. Because
it seemed pretty thick to me. It didn't seem too subtle. It seemed kind of apparent to me.
That actually kind of works too, because the whole park is dark and the lights are at the end. That's a good observation. So no, I as I said, I think it was just the city lights, but I can totally see it working as this is the break in her of just enjoy life while we have it and continue on to do something fun or what you wish to do in life on quote unquote her master list, than to take it easy.
See, I think it works both ways. Mostly because, in the literal sense, they're going to see the city lights, but she's also happens to be really, really depressed at this moment because of everything that just happened. So, I think it works both ways.
Well, don't do a definitive answer then.
Yeah.
Her goal was to die and see the stars or whatever, then I think that would worsen her 180 even further. But if it's inconclusive, then
I think that can definitely be a viewpoint on someone watching it.
Yeah, I don't have anything against that. That's totally valid. I didn't see it, but now that it's pointed out, yeah, it's good. It fits both, and it can be interpreted easily.
I think it definitely fits better for the visualization part of it. Yeah, I know. Because it was never brought up. It was never like her like forcing Will like, no, we have to get to it because of said thing, because of I want to live, because of enjoy the moment while we have it, or because of Abby or whatever.
Okay.
So the only, I guess, little nod to that then is when she got messaged that they have lunch for her and she ignores it.
Yeah. Doesn't care about saving herself at this point.
Yeah. So that's a very good observation. Wow. And Crimson, I'm gonna slightly piggyback off of that because it's cool to see you point something out like that. Let's go to characters' outfits.
Oh God.
Because we like picking on that. Let's go with Will, because earlier on I thought I noticed Will's outfit was going with how, at first I thought it was how he felt about Stella. And then later on in the movie, I just initially changed it to Will's wearing clothing that fits his feelings.
Where he starts with darks and ends with lighters?
He starts with darks.
He kind of had a black jacket at the end.
Yeah, he starts with darks. He kind of ends with darks. When he's doing the FaceTime calls or whatever with Stella, he's wearing a pink. He's wearing a very, I believe it's a dark gray-green when he's doing the Grim Reaper drawing. For his birthday, I think he's in whites. When they go on the date, he's in a lighter green with, I think, a darker green jacket. His I think, depending on how he feels about Stella throughout, or no, not Stella. Originally, I thought it was about Stella, but how he feels about things is the color of his outfits. So the pink, I think, is him feeling more emotion towards Stella and love. Him with greens, I think, is more life in him, which kind of, for the date, while he's wearing 2 different shades of green, because he has more life and like a new skin, kind of. Definitely the darks, or the dark parts of his life. The ending, I don't. The only thing that didn't really stick to me, I don't know fully, is the white scarf he wears at the beginning and end. I don't know if that's, well, it's kind of beige, but if that sticks to his outfit in some way. Also, when they're working out, I believe he's wearing white. So this is a start of like a new chapter, new renewal in his life to start exercising and doing the regimen. So, and I only really noticed it more impactful from Will than any other character.
After hearing all that, I don't see it.
Yeah,
Tyler?
I know. I know Crimson would say that. Oh, it's a load of shit. It doesn't make any difference.
Thinking it over, I can definitely agree. I think it's twofold as well for the workout scene, because that's the first time he actually is genuine, and then Stella actually thanks him for that when they're talking about their master list.
Yeah. Again, it could have happened to other characters. I don't know if it really occurred with Poe or Stella. I'm sure if they thought about it with Will, they thought it was Stella, but it didn't. I didn't see it.
It wasn't as easily noticeable. Yeah. Yeah. Outfits for me with this one, it wasn't as plainly noticeable to me here as it was to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So I'll have to defer to you on that one, Springs.
Okay. Well, this one had definitely a lot of more color. Mr. and Mrs. Smith was a lot of just grays, blacks, and whites.
Which is why I noticed it, because it was very obvious.
Yeah. It's far easier.
Yeah.
I guess I'll shoot something out there. So, after her surgery, the last one, right before he does the light display, I'm no doctor, so I don't know how much of this is accurate, but I would imagine after getting new lungs, you shouldn't be stressing them out. So I don't know why the doctors would encourage her being hyperly stressed out with Will's goodbye. and like hyperventilating and stuff from sadness.
Oh, Barb is just encouraging the fact that he's breaking up with her.
Barb encouraged what?
That was a joke.
Well, yeah. Well, no, maybe the sooner the better kind of thing. But
I don't know. The
I
whole
do
time
kinda
where
see
she's
that,
like
yeah.
freaking out and panicking in her bed, I'm like, is she gonna kill herself by breathing too much?
No.
What's going on here?
she was all hooked up and working through. So I think she was totally fine. There was no like beepings or nurses. There was no
All the nurses
indication
and
that there
doctors
was a
were right
problem.
there, so I'm
Yeah.
not too worried about it.
I mean, I would imagine any sort of organ transplants, because even like if you break an ankle, you can't walk on that ankle. You get new lungs, you can't be abusing them right when you get them. Don't know if it would undo stitches that attached the lungs to wherever the lungs get attached to. I don't know. It seemed a little odd to me that they would allow that.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
like I said,
think
not
it's
doctor.
still
I don't
okay.
know how impactful those breaths she was taking would be on new lungs.
Yeah, I think it definitely would affect the lungs. I'm not saying it wouldn't do anything with emotion, but I think it definitely would affect the lungs. But the fact that the doctors, the nurses, they're there, the doctors there, she's hooked up fully. There's no noise or beeping or like Will saying, like if something was occurring and then Barb's like, "We'll wrap it up," or Will's like, "I gotta go. I can't be here to harm you," or whatnot. I think it was
Well,
fine.
it's not as simple as just like tearing a stitch. They'd have to cut her open to fix whatever problem.
Yeah.
It would be a big ordeal if something happened.
The
because of this.
only really thing I can think of is how long she's been under since the surgery. But
I don't think it was days or anything.
no. It was a couple hours. That was about it. Because Will had to have time to set up all the lights and get all the help.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think on that, Raider?
Well, in terms of realism, I'm going with Crimson. I knew why they don't do it. Obviously, they want the emotional payoff to be this goodbye. But it's still a problem that they don't do that, because it would be, I mean, as you say, they clearly wanted to try and make this as realistic as possible, at least at the beginning. So I don't think they would have wanted to stress the organs just because of the new lungs, just because of the issues it would be. I know why. Again, I know it's obvious why they didn't choose to go that route, because they want the emotional ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since that's a small little gripe out of Crimson, I'll go next with a small little gripe out of me, which could have been worse. I'll say this: it could be worse, but with what wasn't shown, it's still a problem to me. Is the use of the purple balloons for Will's hide and seek thing, the scavenger hunt. If those balloons were blown up by Poe or Stella, that's a very, very bad idea.
There we go. I was going to bring it up at some point if no one else did.
But it couldn't have been blown up by doctors or nurses, because it was all kind of a secret of this whole birthday thing. So they didn't do it, especially getting these papers in it, so they couldn't ask someone for help. The only way I think it would have been okay is if either Stella or Will's friends blew the balloons up. Then that would have been fine.
That or the nursery doctor or nurse, because Will pointed at the balloon and she got it for him.
Oh, in
So
the atrium? Yeah.
She was obviously in on it.
That brings me just kind of a funny nitpick. I like that he tries to hide the balloon under his jacket to pop it right outside the nursery. I'm like, dude,
I wanted them to cry.
You couldn't just walk 10 feet, seriously.
Yeah. What I do like is that they showed Will making a mistake in his guess. He wasn't perfect. I like that.
I hated what he got it wrong, because I got it right pretty easily. Cool.
Well, still the guesses, but I still overall showing that he did go somewhere that wasn't the actual place, I think was very good.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's important to show that your characters have flaws in order for us to relate to them as human beings.
Yeah.
And, I like these like relationship scavenger hunts. They it happens in something that I won't spoil for you guys because I want to show you at some point. But it's always pretty impactful when it happens. And I think you definitely get some brownie points if you did it in real life. Uh, your significant other. But
Yeah.
I like it. Don't know what
All
shot
right.
the balloons though.
Oh, well,
I mean,
from my fact I brought up at the very beginning, purple balloons are the CF patient color of balloons, so I think they just have them on hand.
That would seem weird.
not really. I mean, at least to me, it's not. I mean, then again, I'm used to getting mini toys and stuff from dentists, having grown up and stuff like that. And there's an entire wing for children, so
Yeah.
I don't have I don't have an issue with the balloons.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Let's see.
One small little issue I guess I have in regards to that is none of the nurses said happy birthday to Will throughout the day. Maybe they did and it wasn't shown, but no one really knew Will's birthday. I think they would have had that on record. It makes a little more sense that Stella or Poe or didn't know because he didn't share it with them.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, in terms of what the film wanted, they wanted him to look sad through his birthday. And if they just showed the faculty saying happy birthday, it would kind of lessen the impact they wanted for the surprise party.
True. I think it was good that his friends said they were busy, though, on the phone when that was just them keeping the secret.
That was a good touch. I like that.
Ryder, do you have another point to go with?
Let us see.
I feel like we're slightly dwindling down.
Yeah, I got another one. The artwork, both by Jughead and Abby. I in my first I didn't realize what Abby's artwork was for the first half hour of the film until we have her surgery where we kind of pan up into the ceiling and we could see it turn into stars or whatever. That's when I understood what her artwork was. So upon my rewatch, my half rewatch, it was interesting to note that almost every artwork in Stella's room was a facsimile of lungs. So they were all lungs drawn differently and very immaculately. And I was a really nice touch that I liked. Even if it was, obviously it's a bit overplayed, but I do love it.
I agree. My first watch through, I remember I didn't know Abby's drawing was lungs until Jughead pointed it out to Stella in their FaceTime.
Same.
And once it's pointed out that they're lungs, it's very cool.
Yeah. It was a nice balance between the abstract of it and what it actually is supposed to symbolize. And I thought it did a good job.
And then Jughead's art?
Jughead's art. I love the fact that he draws cartoons. And I kind of like the end of it being... One of the payoffs for me was I'm happy he was drawing the cartoons. I actually thought he still drew a portrait of her. And I kind of like the payoff to that fact that he did draw portraits of her. Because obviously he didn't crank that out in the 2 hours that she was asleep and under for drugs.
No.
So I thought that to me was the strength of the finale, despite what I thought undercut it, was the drawings, because the cartoons were still he had a very distinct style that maintained for his cartoons, and then I liked his sketches of their portraits as well. So,
would you have preferred more cartoon pictures of her? Because he obviously leaned more towards cartoons because they can say more than any words can.
Yeah, I thought it was fairly split. I remember seeing 3 cartoons of her throughout the film, maybe 4.
I think there was a fine enough amount of cartoons. When she comes out of the surgery too, she has that gift he leaves her, and part of the wrapping paper is just cartoons.
I meant of her though.
Oh,
Good.
of Stella.
Yeah.
No, I think it's okay. He kind of used cartoons to indicate steps of his day of like where he was, not necessarily just on Stella. So I think most of his time about Stella was for the more realistic looking ones of Stella at the windowsill or her and Abby.
Um, I mean, of course, I'd want
Those
more. I like looking at art, but I
yeah,
don't think the story necessarily
those
needed it.
those took more time for him to do than cartoons. I do think it was funny though that the film plays it of like him asking, "Hey, can I draw you?" to finally get to the chance to draw her, and he seems to be like really working on it when they're talking about their lists, and then under the door it says, "This is my heart and soul," and opens it up into a cartoon. I think that was pretty funny.
Was it pregnant lady breathing fire? There was some nurse breathing fire.
Yeah. Probably. It didn't look like Barb, so.
No, it was not Barb. Someone makes the truffles thing. Do you think that was a decent payoff, or just kind of weak?
It was minor. I mean,
It could have been stronger. I think it was weak. One shot that I did really like was when she breaks it and the truffles kind of go everywhere after the death of Poe. The truffles are scattered on the Lun artwork that Abby made her. So it was a connection of two of her loves lost in one scene. And I did, through visualization, oh my gosh, visualization.
All right.
No.
It's like pacifist with some of our other friends.
In imagery. And I liked that for that one shot of the truffles on the lawn artwork.
I guess another question I have is, do you think one of the two of them should have died by the end of this?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Will kind of did. But
we don't know for sure. He could have found some miracle cure.
Yeah, the drug could have magically started working.
He could have found Hydra, and they could have made him into a super soldier or something.
The Winter Will.
Yeah, Winter Will.
The Winter Jughead. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, sorry. I mean, I think it was fine. I think it still pays off. They did definitely go with a Romeo and Juliet of thinking she died, and then he got weak and she's fine, and then they're both fine. So it's kind of like, drank the poison.
Very lucky that
just sleeping.
His bacteria didn't spawn into her. But
yeah. See, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what the
I can't. I mean, like the only thing that they have, because they've told us a lot about that over the film. I mean, she is just getting her lungs replaced, so there is some precedent for it not working out that way.
She is far healthier in how she treats her body and through the regimen than Will.
Oh yes, but see, at this point,
doesn't really matter.
at this point in the story, it's not a
no. But I don't know if that's any effect to the luck that she's fine.
Yeah, like if someone's got the flu and they cough on you, you're not guaranteed to get the flu. So I don't know what the odds of it transferring to her are.
Yeah, the only thing I would know is what they told me in the film, and that it's super infectious, and it's very vitally important that he maintain her distance.
Yeah,
his distance.
Which they suck at.
So but I'm going to say 85 to 15.
All right, good made-up number. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do not take this as a statistical fact, ladies and gentlemen. We are a podcast focused on media.
Don't go kissing sick people, all right?
I like that Will was smart enough not to blow out the candle on his birthday cake.
Yeah, that was. I actually do like that touch. And then when his friend blew it out for him, it was kind of cool. I honestly I really liked the birthday scene because we got to see a little bit. We got to see a side of Poe that obviously he doesn't really share with anyone. So he made them all a fancy birthday dinner. and they're all drinking sparkling cider. It's one of my. That's probably one of my favorite scenes outside of I think the minor issue I took with it earlier.
Did that birthday party kill Poe, or was that coincidence?
Well, he was definitely handling all the food, and I think something to help indicate that it did kill Poe was Will and Stella were on opposite sides of the table. They were very far apart. Poe was closer to both of them by being in the middle.
Nope, Stella was the one in the middle.
Yeah, Stella was in the middle.
Oh, Stella was in the middle?
Yep.
Poe was on the other end?
Yep.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, Poe is at the other end of the table. Yeah. I do like they space themselves out. I do like that.
Yeah, that was something I specifically paid attention to. So, do you think it was the party or not?
I think it was,
I'm leaning towards yes, because he's been fine up to this point.
yeah, I think it's the party.
Honestly, it's up in the air.
I don't necessarily know how.
I don't know what killed him. So
Yeah, it would make more sense if someone else was handling the food and gave him the food that they were handling.
I mean,
But then again, he had
6
a mask.
feet is
and
recommended,
gloves.
but you can still catch
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I definitely think it's a party. Then again, Poe does seem the most laid back about it all. Like, it's still important, but he's just
More
kind
than
of
Will?
like okay with it. Yeah, right in the middle. But yeah, I think the party is definitely, I got it.
And I guess following his death, I got pretty mad at Will when he touched her shoulder. We kind of glossed over it, but we didn't really talk about it.
Stella got mad too.
Yeah. What do you guys think of Will there? Do you think that was justified in his character, or that was still stupid for even him?
I think it was justified.
I think it was instinct, unfortunately.
They were both very hurt.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as a gesture. Like he played it off as a joke earlier, like shake on it. Then she almost goes for it. So the idea is that they still have an inkling to want to do something like that. I think he did it purely based on instinct.
Okay.
So I don't have an issue with the action. I mean, I have an issue with it in the sense that like why would you do this to yourself? But obviously they're not in the right state of mind. So because of that, I think it's justified in the terms of the story.
Yeah.
I won't have a problem with it then if you guys think it's fine.
I think it was fine at that point.
I know, like I said, I was kind of on the fence. I couldn't tell if it was too stupid or not.
Well, he did
seem to think it's not.
there.
So.
He stood there listening to her.
I mean, like
he didn't immediately go for comfort.
Yeah. I think once he realized how bad it was, like she was complaining about she's never hugged her best friend, I think that's when he realized that he got the urge to do it. So, yeah, I lean to that one being on the more justified end of things.
Yeah. And then a hour later, she touches his hand and is like, oh, don't worry, glove. We're okay.
Yeah, and then, we get to breathe on each other while we're sitting on ice, too. It's nice.
Well,
which kind of reminded me of a Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind a little.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Staring up at the sky on the snow.
Yeah, nice. That was nice.
Definitely not as good.
Definitely not as good, but yeah, I also got I thought when the whole ice bit, I'm like, this reminds me I literally thought of Spotless Mind. Yeah.
Sprinks, I'm going to shock you again with something that could be there but could not be there.
Boy, is it about the Snow Angel?
No.
Oh, okay.
So when they were holding the opposite ends of the pool stick, typically they filled up the screen or a good chunk of it. But when they were outside and closer than the pool stick, the camera was further away, making them smaller in the frame, looking closer than they really are. So the closer they are, the smaller they are on the frame, potentially.
Crimson, I actually did notice that.
It's not as obvious in terms of thematic, what it could mean, but I do agree that it was definitely intentional.
Yeah. What?
You know what? I think I'll go with one last thing for myself, and then you two, if you have anything else to talk about. They, being a PG-13 movie, they are allowed to have one F-bomb, which they did use when Stella was doing her live stream of taking back one fucking foot. Where would have you put that F-bomb in the movie?
I mean, I guess that was pretty appropriate.
No, it's very emotionally appropriate in terms of another area where it'd be funny. Is I would probably have had Poe say it when he fell off the skateboard.
Okay.
That would be for humor.
Yeah, it'd either be for where they used it or when Will was avoiding her and they were on the opposite end of the doors. You'd be like, leave me the F alone. It'd kind of be more impactful, I guess. But I think it's fine where it is. Did you have a spot in mind?
Me personally, no. I think it fit well where it was, but I did notice it's the only time it's used, so that's where they decided to put the F-bomb. So I think it worked well. And I think it also helps Stella a little more emotionally to get to Will to use it because she's using the live stream to kind of get a way to talk to him.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I do like the placement. I don't think I would want to move it because I do think it's very powerful where it is. Like I said, the only other things I could think of it were just like used for comedy, maybe, or as Crimson said, when they're apart from each other.
I feel like if it was used in comedy only once, it would have been a waste.
Yeah, I agree. But like I said, that's probably where it would have gotten stuck in a normal film.
Yeah.
All
right, Ryder, you got another point?
Do I? Let's see. I'm gonna check through my notes really quickly.
I got something if you need time to read.
Take it away.
All right. So the first rooftop scene, I guess.
Okay.
Where was Will gonna jump? Who knows? Oh, he slipped. Oh, it's a joke. It's interesting to see both their personalities clash right there, considering the 180 they take by the end.
Yeah.
Kind of flip the roles. And they do a good job making Will not likable here, at least for me. I don't know. What about you guys?
No, I think it worked. He's kind of scummy.
Yeah, I think they do a good job. I honestly, they're playing up their character traits a lot, and I think it works. Like you can see the look in his face that he's intentionally pretending to slip. Like there is a couple frames there where you could see him almost roll his eyes as a part of the joke. So I thought it was very, very poignant for a first meeting between them, and I liked it.
I don't know how he managed to get that $20 bill in the door.
I assumed his mom was rich.
Oh, I'm like, you could probably just gotten it from his friends.
No. My problem isn't that he has $20. It's that he was able to jam it in the door in the first place, because those roof accesses would be locked. Which is why the 20 is there, so it doesn't get locked on him. Mm-hmm. Or so we can access the roof in the first place.
Well, if it goes through the whole door, because we don't really see Stella take it out or move, out of the door to open the door. But if it went all the way to the other side, then he could have just held it on the other side while it closed.
I think you're confusing me. Somebody had to have been on that roof to open that door, and he would have had to go by them to put the money in there so he could go outside. Because you're not allowed to be on those roofs. For the very reason why Stella was nervous of him jumping.
You're saying the door would have been locked from the inside as well?
Yeah. You can't just have patients running up on the roof. You can't do that. Those are locked.
I guess so, yeah. I thought it would have just been unlocked from the inside because it seems every door in that hospital is unlocked to them.
Could you imagine how many people would jump at a hospital?
Well,
what better place to break your leg, right?
I'm just saying
they even bring that up in Life is Strange.
It definitely would have been a problem. I don't think they ever really came across a door that was locked. Like they're like, oh, we can't get in, and try to find a key or find some way around it or whatnot. I think if that was shown,
The fact
it would have made
that
all
they
the
showed the
doors
money there proves that it would be locked. You wouldn't do that to a door you can just open.
Well, what I thought of it, especially kind of shown afterwards, is you can't open it from the outside. So it seems like you can open it to get to the roof, but you can't get from the roof inside. So when Stella left first, probably she didn't put the 20 back and let it close. When Will came, he couldn't get in because it was locked.
Yeah, it's a door that's locked on both ends for security externally and internally. That's how those go.
Oh, well. That's not how they used it.
It is. That's what the money's there.
Well, that's how they use it. Well, as I said, it didn't show Will actually putting the money there, but the money's there with Will on the outside. So I'm thinking if it's only unlocked from the inside to get outside, then Will opened it from the inside, took the 20, put it by the door as it closed, so the 20 is both on the inside and outside to make it so when he can open it from the outside again.
That is technically true, but I'm saying it's fine. We're going in circles. It's fine.
You're saying a real hospital door would be locked on both sides, especially at that time of day. Agreed. Yes. I'm saying for the movie, it seemed that the door could be opened from the inside, not the outside. Ryder, what do you think?
I mean, you don't see them open the door without the money in it either.
Well, I know, like I said, that again, Crimson, for that time of day, you're right. Springs, what he did was the intention of the film.
Wait to not give any answers.
What? That is my answer.
Crimson, you're right with the realism. I'm right with the fictional film.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the action that they made deliberately in the film is what Springs did. I agree that it is damaging in that the realism aspect of the film. So there's that, I guess. I don't know what to say other than that, mate.
Darn it, this movie's a 1 now. Thanks a lot.
Jeez. Whoa.
Did you find anything while reading?
Yeah, I guess I sort of did. The parents all meeting together for the first time when they're missing. It is a very, very small scene that features the parents, because the parents aren't really characters, though they have been background characters. We do see Stella's parents more than once. Outside the waiting for surgery, where her first surgery, where she goes under, and before Barb chases Will out the rest of the way, you can see her mother and father there sitting across from each other. And then we obviously have seen Will's mom before, because she was we actually meet her directly face to face too. But it's, I think, a kind of a nice touch that there is a scene with all of them together. They're not really, because they're not fully fledged characters, so they have to be very effective and quick of how they're going to use them. And I thought it was purposeful enough what they did with them. And
I have a question off of that then.
All right.
Do you think it was a good choice to have Stella's parents be divorced?
Doesn't really affect the film.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't impact too much. It's obviously added to her stresses, but it wouldn't have really detracted either way, I think.
Oh, I think it did. I think if Stella's dad was there at the lunch with the mom and Stella, it would have not been as strong as an impact.
I mean, they wouldn't have to be divorced for that to happen either. He could be at work. So I don't think he had to be there if they were together.
There is the comment that the only effective comment that it would change would be the one, "Divorce looks good on you, Mom." That would be the that was pretty much the only line that we would have to remove from the scene if they weren't divorced. So I don't think it changes much in the film.
Okay.
I do think they wasted the dad, because that guy's actually an actor. That guy's in a bunch of stuff, and he doesn't really have anything in this.
Yeah,
well.
like I said, for the very brief time that the parents are all there, it's very short, but I still think they are effectively used. Um,
That was something I wrote in my notes where I would have liked to have seen more parents. It wasn't necessary, but I would have preferred
yeah,
more.
I can agree with that. Yeah, I think that's all I got for that one.
Okay.
Shoot, I have one more. What was Dr. Hamid. Um, she's always a bad guy, so it was weird seeing her as a good person.
Oh, the
The
actress.
actress, she's always a bad guy. So
That's-
it was weird.
It's kind of funny. I don't know what I've seen her in, but I know she's familiar.
She was in well, I'm trying to remember if it's a spoiler. I'll say it anyways. Agents of Shield. She's in Agents of Shield.
Oh yeah, and that show that I have planned to watch for my whole life. Sure, go ahead.
She was in a Lifetime movie. Crazy, I know. uh, just caught it when my mom was watching it, and there was something else, but I can't recall what it was. By the way, interesting. She didn't really contribute much in this film. She was just kind of background character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fine.
All right. We'll go with writer. Do you have any finishing things that you'd like to point out? Just the finishing scene that we haven't covered, if at all.
Let's see. Kind of already touched how contrived the whole ice scene was. Touched on the. I don't think I actually have anything. I got all the major stuff out that I think I needed to get out.
Okay. All good. Crimson, do you?
So when Will blatantly brought up the Abby's dead thing, kind of getting Stella mad at him, I was kind of irritated.
Meditation.
Yeah. Will is probably the least empathetic character that isn't a villain I've ever seen in anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of annoying to the degree of which he was not empathetic to others. Because a normal person would not bring that up in the fashion he did. Found it kind of stupid. So, what do you guys think? Is it a writing issue or a personal issue for me that it's hit me that way?
I'm gonna go with personal because, as he says in the scene, they don't have time for delicacies because they're dying. So, and Will at this point hasn't really flipped yet, so he's still on that train of like, don't waste a minute, let's take care of it now, kind of thing. So I think that might be more personal than it is a writing problem because I think that's very in character for Will at this point in the story.
I agree with the writer that I think it's more of a personal problem because at this point of the movie, this is how Will is.
There is.
He is sick about it. It upsets her and she starts to leave. But
yeah, there is I mean, Stella definitely has a bit of a high horse in this scene as well. And like I said, that does change a little bit with the whole timeline of if it's Abby's death is a really recent addition. Because she is, with her whole speech in that scene, it's you mean like just a few scenes ago she talks about how they don't know each other, and she makes awful lot of assumptions about Jughead's character, Will's character, because she's pretty much implying that he doesn't know what loss is in her speech, and that to me I found kind of annoying. That was the annoying aspect that I got out of it. Because she made a lot of assumptions about him.
Okay. Yeah, that one didn't bug me as much, but yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think it's out of character because, as I said, she's a little emotionally distressed at that point because that wound is still raw for her.
Gotcha.
How do you guys feel about how she treated Poe when Poe was trying to be kind and helpful? And she's like, you abandoned every relationship you ever had and all that stuff.
She
I
definitely
think it was
snapped
annoying
at
as
him.
well.
Yeah, I think it was a way of her venting, but not a healthy way.
Yeah,
Because there's not many
I'm
people she
I'm
can
of the
talk to.
opinion that she should have apologized to Poe.
Yeah, that was my problem. I hated that Poe apologized for not really doing anything wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I would still have him admit that she's right, but that would be after she apologizes, because he has nothing to apologize for in that scene at that point. So there is, like I said, there's a lot of this kind of goes into my issues with the movie as a whole. There is a lot of good stuff here, and there is a lot of things that weigh that good content down. And it's just minor things that start picking away at the story.
Well, I'll go with my final is the ending of the movie of the bookend of the beginning, which if you listening have heard our episode on the Blair Witch Project and what it could have done stronger for its ending, I think this is kind of a way of that where it did what it did at the beginning but stronger. I really like that the scenes at the beginning of the movie when it's talking about touch and feel, the only one that really stands out because we know, I mean, the three of us here know Cole Sprouse, not personally, but acting wise, the actor kind of stood out even from just the back.
Mm-hmm.
So showing just a couple more seconds of the footage that was shown at the beginning to show that it was Stella and Abby and Poe and Will in those videos.
Intersplicing all of them together. Yeah.
Yeah, I think gave just that stronger send off to the over feeling of funny enough feeling at the end for a good bookend, and I thought it was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that as well, and the context it gave. Because in the beginning, you see a kid riding a bike or a kid running through the halls of a hospital and stuff, but now you get all the context to all those scenes and all the people within them.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like that part. It probably would have gotten something emotional out of me, as in like a flashback scenario, if I wasn't already taken out of it.
With
unfortunately.
Yeah. Like I said,
because everything after the bridge just felt like drama to me. We left reality and have gone into a movie.
It was very contrived. That being said, I do love the music that plays. Daughter is one of my favorite bands, and their song "Medicine" happens to be one of my favorite songs. So I kind of smirked when it started playing.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, problem I had I forgot to bring up. Would they have been right next to each other when they were on the stretchers?
Yeah. At this point, they're going into the emergency room. Yeah, there's not really much compunction for being pushed into the emergency room.
All the doctors and nurses are gathered right there. That's
supposed to be far from each other.
It did slightly remind me of E.T.
They do have the modus operandi of them being like 5 feet-ish apart. So there is that. Because they're not directly next to each other, but obviously for the procedure itself,
or something.
Obviously for the procedure itself, they move them away, apart. But since they're just rushing into the emergency
too.
Yeah, since it's just them being in the emergency room, I was fine with it, at least for the start of it. If they had stayed there, I would have taken issue with it.
Yeah, if they wheeled Will into her lung surgery, no, that would have been absurd. But no, I think it was fine.
Sorry, I interrupted something from somebody. I don't know who I did.
Oh, I don't know. I said it reminded me of E.T.
Yeah.
A little of Elliot, like, reaching out.
Oh, okay.
I guess
kind of everything for me.
Yeah, the last thing that comes to mind is Will's goodbye. I'm curious if you guys felt anything with the words he was saying specifically, and if it was good or just felt cheesy. Because on me it was kind of teetering where it's kind of getting into cheesy territory
I
or
think
cliche.
I
I
think the
think-
cheesy helped it.
I think the cheese would have been earned if it wasn't contrived bullshit that got them there.
Okay.
So unfortunately I go with cheesy, and I don't think it helped all that much. Because my thing with if you're gonna write cheesy dialogue, it's going to stand out, so you have to earn it. I don't think they earned it, which is the problem. Not so to say in isolation, I think it could work. The problem is it doesn't fit as well as I would like it because of the contrived way that we got here. I because of that, it's not as strong as I would like it to be. Yeah, I don't think I
I
have.
know this is definitely for writer, and I don't know the answer, but I am curious in situations like this, how much of the screenplay was taken from the book.
To be fair, I would kind of, I actually have added the book to my wish list because I'm curious to see what they've done differently. And in the same way that with Secret Garden, I've also added that book to my wish list because
I was just about to ask that.
yeah, I've also added that book to my wish list because in the case of Secret Garden, I still feel like something's missing, and I don't know how to articulate what's missing. So I want to see if it's there in the book, so I have understanding of what was missing from the adaptation, quote unquote, or what could have been fixed. Whereas here, I'm also more curious as to how much of it was taken from the book in that sense, because I want to know if there's context missing, and that's just curiosity on my part. So
I'm excited to hear when you read those what the differences are, because I won't be reading them.
I'm sure those will be brought up in a recap sometime.
yeah, hopefully.
But if that's all the kernels we have for the film, let us go into our final summaries.
Ba-da-da-da.
Let's go with Crimson.
Darn, I knew it. So like I said in the beginning of this, I typically don't watch teen dramas or romance stuff, even though apparently this isn't classified as such, but definitely is. It was definitely one of the better ones, I guess. It was fine. I was having trouble. Is this just summary or summary rating?
No, yeah, summary rating. Why not?
Okay. So yeah, I was having trouble deciding my objective for this because I thought it was pretty high. But after I sat and thought about the ending and stuff, I was like, I don't know so much. Well, we'll see how it goes during this talk, and I guess I'll bring up my objective here, where it was originally an 8, but I'm dropping it to a 7.5 because the whole 180 thing, I saw it, but I didn't see it to the degree we discussed, which definitely lowered it for me. And the relationship mostly was good, mostly believable. They did jump on board with each other kind of quick, but it wasn't startling or anything. I think it was okay. It wasn't too drastic. And in terms of the dialogue, it's fine. There's some good stuff. It's not too much in the way of bad, I guess. All the characters mostly make sense, other than the 180 we talked about. I did like Poe throughout all of this. I think that was a good way of handling a gay character as well. We didn't really talk about that, but I think they did a good job with him. Or Poe. Like I said, that was the emotional part of this movie for me. Not that I cried, but it was definitely like a choked up thing. Yeah, so objectively 7.5. Subjectively, this is probably a movie I won't be watching again, but I will be fine watching it if someone else wants to. So I'm giving it a 5.5. We didn't talk too much about acting, but whoever Stella was stellar. They did a good job. Cole Sprouse, I don't think he's that great of an actor, unfortunately. He had his moments here, but a lot of the times he's emotional. It just feels like acting and not a person. Don't really know how else to describe it.
Don't see the monologue in his eyes.
Yeah. So, yeah, 5.5. It was okay. It's fine. I'm through. I'm done.
All right. Writer.
CGI, horrendous.
Oh,
That's funny. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna pull up my notes really quickly for my final thoughts. I think the characters are mostly well written, aside from the obvious issues that I take with them. But whether that's a plot problem or a character problem, I think it kind of is interrelated in that sense. I had some issues with the music, as I brought up. I do think the music has an up and down thing to it, because I thought the music's use in the first 45 minutes or so of the movie, it was fairly decent. I thought it kind of petered off towards the middle, and then they brought it back in the end with very on point choices and thematic choices, as well as to match the tone of what's going on. They also used silence and quiet very effectively. I'm happy I didn't have music blasting over Poe and Stella talking in the lobby. That would have been annoying. Same for the pool scene. I'm really helped by the fact that it's silent. I think the plot is very simplified. So it's not very terrible to fuck up, but there are obviously some contrived problems that we brought up. I think the world building around the disease itself is, in that it's mostly realistic, is great. The fact that they don't adhere to the rules at all is a fucking problem. At least for like the mask rules and the distance, which is the whole thing. Even when they both were mostly rule followers, they didn't really adhere to it. And Cole Sprouse's character was fine. I'm kind of in agreement with Crimson. This is not the best acting I've seen from Cole Sprouse. Unfortunately, I think he still has better acting in Riverdale. I think Stella's actress does a great job. And as for the characters, they're the beating heart of the story. They definitely tie a lot of knots in the sense of it doesn't ruin other aspects of the story. The nurse is appropriately not a full antagonist. She's trying to help them, but obviously has a more antagonistic role in situations where she wouldn't approve. I also really liked Poe's character because he was an actual character, where the fact that he was gay became a facet and wasn't like the character in of its entirety. I really like him for that fact. And objectively, I do think this film has its problems, but it's not horrible in terms of its execution. So it did become a kind of a mixed bag for me. So I've been oscillating between a 6.5 and a 6 for a fair bit of this objectively, and I think I'm gonna settle on 6.5. It's leaning towards the average. I do think the emotional payoffs could be stronger, if not for the contrived way that we got there. And as I said, the character work is mostly good, aside from the one major flaw. But 6.5 is, I think, fair to give it, objectively. Subjectively, I also don't watch teen dramas very regularly. It's not going to be something I intentionally watch again, but if like a family member wants to watch it, or I'm watching it with you guys again for fun, and we're going to do a drinking game with it or something, absolutely 10 out of 10 we'll watch it again. But I think for personal choice, it's probably going to be a 6.
I'll
Okay.
throw it out there. I didn't bring up in mine. I also agree with the not keeping up with the distance and the masks. Continue on. No, sorry.
Alrighty. As usual, I'm the last to go, which is nice. Hearing everyone else talk. Let me start with subjective. 8.5. I really like this movie. It definitely is not perfect. It's got its little tweaks that I don't necessarily like the music at points seem a little repetitious, a little patterned. I think choosing some sets just a little it's very minor, but some sets scenes that are solely on lighting of fluorescent lights above is a little harsh. Doesn't take it away, but it's still a little much. The writing and dialogue definitely could be stronger, especially based off of a book, a published book, and screenplayed and gone through writing kind of in that regard twice, probably. Definitely more. I mean, over and over with edits and whatnot, but it's definitely been looked at writing wise multiple times. So I feel like could be stronger in some points. I do. I think overall though I do think it was very good. I liked how scientific it was with cystic fibrosis, and it wasn't kind of jokingly used as like a disease or a condition people have, but
It was
actually
present
giving
and actually a character thing, which is nice.
yeah
Not brushed
I
over.
do like that. So yeah I like, and it is, I will say at this point, is the saddest movie I've seen. I know some people are like, oh, well, you haven't seen Titanic then. I have. People are like, oh, you haven't seen Marley and Me. I have. You haven't seen Notebook. Look, I have.
I really got
But
introduced to some John Green movies, my friend.
This was sadder than Marley and Me?
This is sadder than Marley and Me to me.
That's
Well,
hard.
then again, to me, I think the movie My Dog Skip is sadder than Marley and Me. And before seeing this movie, I would say that My Dog Skip was the saddest movie I've seen. But yeah, this is a movie that so far, all 3 times I've seen it, I have cried and pretty much a wreck. So yeah, 8.5. Objectively, and this is where everyone listening usually
all the
brings out
controversy
their
comes in.
pens and starts clicking. Yeah. Okay. Originally, I had it higher, and throughout our discussion today, it has gone down half a point because of character, because of how characters were and the writing and the dialogue they used. It went down half a point. I really like the cinematography in this movie. I like the use of handheld shaky hand and Steadicam. I like the use of natural lighting throughout the hospital, the atrium where all the lights coming through the glass of the babies. Really like that. I like the lighting of outside, how it's basically all street lamps. I really like the lighting. I like the characters. I like the characters of who they are and how they change. Yes, Stella is a pretty shocking here and there, her gradual path to the end of the movie, but overall I do like the characters of all of them. I don't think anyone really copies one another, and there's no real clash or why you even in this movie kind of feel. Did I already say acting? Did I say acting yet? If not, acting I think was very well done. I think Cole Sprouse not a phenomenal actor, but I think for this film he did very well. Actress who did Stella's really great. Guy who did Poe. The parents definitely showed emotion in their faces of caring for their kids, even though the little they had, I think, was very good. I think the seriousness of Barb was very well done in scenes, but still a soft character to try to be there for kids. I think that was very well. Something I didn't really touch on with the camera work that I did like is shots of Will and Stella were symmetrical and mirrored, with Will being like on the right during a whole scene, no matter what shot it cut to, or Stella being on the left, vice versa, but always sticking to their sections, and I really like that. And that was throughout the film. So, with all that in hand, and the bookend that I really liked, and I guess kind of the foreshadowing of it, kind of definitely felt very bookended of the foreshadowing of Poe to Poe dying, and then before Poe was the slip of Will slipping on the roof and being fine, but then Stella slipping off the bridge, quote unquote, being fine, of being kind of timed of at places in the movie that kind of, if you took the half the movie and put the end to the beginning, it kind of has beats that match. So I think that was very cool. I don't know if that was entirely purposeful, and I could be just talking about my ass right now, but I did like that, or something I saw in it. And again, I like movies where I can see a little bit of the background of costume designing with how Will's outfits were, and probably more than likely with Stella's too. But overall, dropping it down, as I said, I am giving it objectively an 8. It was an 8.5. So 8.
So it was originally tied with your original Halloween Town rating. Tied for the highest.
Guess so.
I think. I don't think you've given anything a 9, right?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know. I mean, you're the one who keeps the bookends of, but you said
Yeah.
you usually keep them. I mean,
I think 8.5.
archive, but
yeah.
Okay. Yes,
right.
It is. As people say, it is tied with Lightyear.
Don't worry, I'm sure that'll be brought up in next recap.
Oh, I know.
Nah, there's been other
Me to
things.
the end.
Yeah, no, there's been other things. This one makes more sense. There's been other things that we need to talk about.
Anywho, that is our scores, and to our knowledge, Sinister never got around to watching this and does not have a score for us to share with you.
I talked to him last night. That is true.
Okay.
He has not seen it yet.
So if he joins us for the recap, he might have an answer by then. But overall, thank you for listening to this episode of Cheap Seat Critics on 5 Feet Apart.
Yeah.
Definitely another one under our belts.
Yeah.
That's a little different.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting choice. I'm happy with the variety that we're getting.
Yeah, I want to help audience members. People who are like, oh, I don't watch Pixar movies, I don't like them. Or it's like, oh, I'm not a fan of horror, I don't want to watch this, or I only like action. But I'm trying to get more variety to people who are like, oh, I really like this type, something to try to help. So yeah, Ryder, since you're here, you can go off with the send off of your list of 20.
Yeah, I heard something happened when I left last week. I don't know.
Oh, that was a different recording.
As always, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Anchor, Pocket Casts, Google, Amazon, and Castbox. That's all of them. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel, and leave comments wherever we are. We got some socials. They'll probably be in the description. As always, I have been a Geeky Writer.
I'm Chris Moran.
And I'm Sprinks.
And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Toodaloo.